All right. Well, it's been a little bit of time since we've seen this guy, 11 months to be exact, but he is back on September 23rd in Farmington, Utah. Jackson Degrey, #1 contender fight coming up. How are you, man? It's been a minute.
I'm doing good. How about you, man?
Doing very, very well. So I think I want to kick this off by just asking you, how has it been? Again, we haven't seen you in almost a year's time, but you've looked great on your come up to this opportunity. What's the 11 months been like away from Fierce Fighting Championship and just kind of time away in general?
Yeah. I mean, I've had a bunch of stuff going on. So I got actually married right before my last fight. So took a little bit of time off and spent that time with my wife, obviously, and then just been getting back into training. Excited to get back in there. So
So you got married, and I knew that going into the Jared Melton fight. And then how much time away did you spend from Wasatch? Were you for like a certain amount of months? Were you not in the gym?
yeah, I wasn't in the gym for probably, oh, I don't know. I was probably not in the gym for like 4 months. Part of that was because I got married, but another part of that was just going through like a transitionary phase in my life where I was looking for better jobs, better opportunities to like provide for my new wife and pay bills and stuff like that. And then once I got that all figured out, then I started to, hop back in the gym, knock the rust off, and get ready to get back in there.
What was that period like, kind of transitioning back into it? Was everyone kind of also like freaking out, like, hey, where did Jackson go? Like were people really
Yeah,
happy to see you back?
I think so. Honestly, I think that my coaches were like, "Dang, dude, he took a loss and now he's never coming back." But no, that's not me, dude. I really the loss didn't affect me too much. It was mainly just life got in the way, and I had to take some time off. So
I think that's something that a lot of us were wondering because I mean, you had a really strong rise, and then obviously the Jared
yeah,
Melton fight didn't go your way, but it wasn't a bad performance. And then I started hearing
yeah,
rumblings that you weren't like training, and I was like, oh my gosh, like we can't lose this guy. He's awesome.
nah,
He's
nah,
great. So
man.
so I'm happy to hear that. I'm happy to clear the air on that.
Yeah, can't get rid of me that easy, man.
No, absolutely not. I do kind of want to ask you a little bit about the Jared fight because we haven't talked since then. What
Uh-huh.
was that fight like for you, that learning experience? I mean, obviously your first loss,
Yeah,
but also your toughest competition up to that date.
for sure. What I kind of realized in that fight, well, there was a few reasons why I feel like that I lost that fight, a few combined reasons, but a big thing that I realized is these guys are crazy too. They're all fighters. So they've all got something special about them. Like Jared, for instance, is a good wrestler, but anybody can be a good wrestler. I feel like he had really good cardio and a really good chin. And those were like his intangibles that kind of stood out to me and were able to propel him. Well, we're able to, let's see, he was able to like withstand the storm in the first round and wade through that and then go through adversity and win. So that kind of made me realize I'm not the only special one out here. There's other people that are good as well.
Talking a little bit about some of the high and low moments. I mean, you did drop him in the opening 20 seconds of that fight. And I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that. Like, what was your mindset like when you had dropped him that
Yeah.
early? And again, like knowing the context of like, this is a really tough guy, one of the top in the entire West Coast.
Yeah. Well, this isn't like an excuse to, I'm not trying to take anything away from Jared. I really didn't train too much for that fight because obviously I got married right before. I went on a honeymoon and everything for a week right before. And the training camp just wasn't the best. Um, but I think that basically what it was I hit him. I thought I could finish him, and my adrenaline just dumped, and I couldn't recover after that. Really, is what I feel like it was.
And I think that's one of the benefits of having an amateur career, right? Like you learn those lessons
Absolutely.
before it really does start to count. Talking a little bit about just your amateur career in general, what made you want to start fighting? What was the thing that kind of
Yeah,
got you into this? You started training in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. Is that
yeah,
correct?
yeah,
What was the reason to get into it? What was the reason to make that transition to taking a fight? How did that all come to be?
yeah. So, really, what got me into fighting is I've always My dad actually watched the UFC all growing up and stuff, and I always loved it. I thought it was awesome. The only thing was I was really doing other sports. So I played football growing up and played rugby as well. I got to a collegiate level in rugby. I played for UVU and we did really well and stuff. And that kind of, I always wanted to do it, but that kept me away from training. So really, as soon as I stopped playing rugby, I hopped in the gym immediately and then started training from there. But yeah, it's always kind of been around. I always got in fights and stuff when I was a kid just because I liked fighting. So yeah,
I did not know that about you, a collegiate
yeah,
rugby player, Jackson Degrey. That is very
yeah, bro.
interesting. How have you seen the benefits of your rugby days transition into the sport of MMA? Obviously, two different
Yeah,
sports, but contact sports nonetheless.
yeah, hugely. I would say both football and rugby hugely impacted me just because it's like I I don't know what it is, man. I enjoy contact and I love getting in the grit of things. So like that's I loved those sports because of that. I like the gritty nature of them and that's why I like fighting so much is because it's a contact sport. I like hurting people. I like getting in there and swinging and banging or whatever. And I think really just the physicality aspect is what transfers the most and like the mindset of I'm going in here to hurt somebody. I'm not trying to, I'm not just twiddling my thumbs or really just hanging out looking to not really do anything. I'm really in here to hurt somebody. That's the mentality you have to have. And I think that transferred.
I got two questions about that. The first one that comes to mind is like, you are seriously one of the nicest guys in the whole world. How do you
Yeah.
flip that switch? Because hearing that from you is like so
Yeah.
uncharacteristic from our conversations in the past.
Yeah, I don't. A lot of people say that about me, man. I know that I'm really not like I'm a nice guy. I think I get along with most people. It's just um, I don't know what it is, man. And maybe it's because I'm small. I feel like I have something to prove or something like that. But um, I just ever since I was a kid, I've loved I love competition. So um, but I was never like the most athletic, the fastest, the strongest person. So it was always my mind that would carry me through like sports and stuff. So I think that that's really what it was. Like if I went in there with the mentality that I have to be more physical or more aggressive than somebody, then that's what would give me the edge. And that's what fighting is. So that it's like 99% mental, I believe fighting is anyway. And I feel like I'm a mental giant in that aspect. That's the only reason I feel like I've ever succeeded in sports.
So 99% mental, the 1% physical. I got to give you your attributes there too. I have talked to multiple
Yeah.
people from Wasatch, and they say specifically for, 135-pound fighter, you hit, and this is a quote, you hit like a truck. And I've heard that from multiple people from that gym. Now, I've got to ask you, where does that power
Yeah.
stem from, and how did you learn to hit that hard? Is it the football and rugby background? Like, where does it come from?
Yeah, I don't know, honestly. I'm kind of the belief that power is a you're born with it. It's not an attribute you can really develop too much. I do believe that like you can develop your coordination, and the more coordinated you are and the more fast you are, all that power is mass and speed. Well, it's force and that's mass and speed, right? So if you're able to do things efficiently and fast, then that equals explosivity. But I think that the extra little that I get with a lot of people, I think that's kind of you're either born with that or you don't have it. So
It sounds like
yeah.
you really can break that down far beyond what most fighters say is like, oh, I just need to like land cleanly. Like you're bringing in like explosivity, like velocity, all this stuff. Are you a smart guy, Jackson? Like, are you like someone who like studies this stuff and really breaks it down to like the small little integers?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm a smart guy, but I definitely do study the stuff. Yeah, man, that's what I do. I am seriously obsessed with this sport. So yeah, man, I watch all sorts of sports science stuff. I watched this past weekend was crazy. I'm a big fan of the sport. But yeah, dude, I'm just obsessed. That's what I do in my pastime is just research. So
Kind of bringing it back to what we were first talking about. You just mentioned you're obsessed with this game. Has it been really difficult to be away for the last 11 months trying to figure out life and finally get back in there?
yes, yeah, it has. It's been like I wish I could explain that to my coaches, but I feel like just being walking in the gym after being away for 4 months and being like, dude, I miss you guys. You don't even know how bad I wanted to come back. It's kind of like, yeah, whatever, dude. But yeah, man, I couldn't. I freaking was breaking down all the time because I wanted to be in the gym. I become a different person when I'm going to the gym consistently compared to when I'm not. It just is kind of like my space where I get everything out. I don't have to worry about anything. I just go in there, work hard, train hard, and then go home. I'm tired. I fall asleep. So
You bring up a great point with Wasatch and just thinking about some of the big names from this year alone, Nate, Viliami, Mina. I mean, you obviously
yeah,
finally coming back. And what is it about that gym that has led to so much success over the last 12 months or so?
yeah. Man, it's kind of like I don't know if you've heard this phrase before, but like usually if something explodes onto the scene, there was things happening behind the scenes, right? So, man, long before that, we've always, and I've always said this, and I always will say this, we've always had the best striking in Utah. And then the missing link came along, which is Coach Reese, man. He's the best jiu-jitsu coach in Utah, in my opinion, for sure, especially for MMA. So yeah, man, I think it's honestly a combination of a lot of like-minded people with similar goals, combined with the culture and the knowledge that the culture that the coaches have cultivated and the knowledge that they have. So I feel like that's mainly what it is, and that just came together really well with a few of us. And man, there's a bunch of killers in there. We might have a few more of them coming out soon. I don't know.
I wanted to talk to you about being one of the top bantamweights in the entire state. You're currently in the top 10, number 9 specifically. And I'm curious, where do you want to go with this? How much longer do you want to be an amateur? Do you want to become a pro? Like, what's the ceiling for Jackson Degrey?
Well, the ceiling, hopefully, is that I want to be a UFC champ. That's where I want to be. So eventually, one day, I'm just gonna try to keep putting in the consistent work, man, and hopefully one day I get. Not hopefully, like you can't have the. I say hopefully because like to normal people that don't have like the delusional brain of a fighter, it's like, oh yeah, hopefully I become a fighter. But I know that I'm gonna become a UFC champion. Um, but yeah, I hopefully become a pro. I think I'm only going to have 2 to 3, maybe 4 more amateur fights. And hopefully I can bang those out within the next year. And then, yeah, go pro and try and make a splash on the pro scene, get some sick finishes, get some highlights, build up my record and stuff, and get to a big organization. So,
You were talking about sick finishes, and I've told you this many times, but your leg kick of Jordan Munoz, Fierce Challenger Series, May of 2022, Fierce Challenger Series 2. It was my first time ever calling fights for the promotion. And
yeah, man.
I could not believe what I had just seen. It's one of my favorite finishes. You pointing at Reese afterwards is one of my, or maybe it was Casey, I can't remember.
It was
One of my
Casey,
favorite
bro.
celebrations in the entire promotion's history. Can you kind of just like roll back the clock and just
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about what that moment was like for you? Because that was a special finish, man.
Yeah, so check this out. I was actually so I was living in Harriman at the time. I get in my car to go to work and my freaking gym bag is my stuff is rummaged through and my gym bag got stolen out of my car. So I was like, "Oh my gosh, dude, I have to spend all this money on new gloves, new shin guards, new freaking mouthpiece, cup, all that, bro. I had to get all new gear." Luckily I had a little bit of old gear, so I just for that training camp, dude, I just threw on some old stuff, some old shin guards that were beat up and everything. I'm going to the gym and Casey says, "Hey man, if you finish this guy with leg kicks, I'll just buy you new shin guards." So so I go to the fight. Honestly was like, "Okay, yeah, all right, dude. If I finish him with leg kicks, I'll get new shin guards. Thanks, dude. And then I go into the fight. I've always had really good leg kicks, but I go into the fight, I start hitting a few, and I'm like, dude, this actually, I probably could finish him right now with leg kicks. So I just start hammering away, get it done. Immediately, my first thought is, bro, Casey, you owe me new shin guards.
And did he follow up on
So
it?
yeah, hell yeah, I did.
Oh my, I got to say, that's probably the best story I think I've ever heard on this podcast. That's amazing. That
Yeah,
is
man.
super, super cool. All right,
Yeah.
let me talk to you a little bit about this upcoming fight. Ben McNeil, an undefeated fighter out of the Pitt SLC, obviously one of the top teams in the entire state as well. What are your thoughts headed into this one, and what are you just specifically looking forward to?
Really what I'm looking forward to is dude, when I say I love fighting, dude, I love fighting and I just can't wait to get in there. Like that's the biggest thing. But also what I'm looking to prove is Jared was the first person I fought with a winning record. And I feel like again, not taking away anything from Jared. He won that fight fair and square. He's a really good fighter, but I feel like I could win that fight most of the time. So really, what I'm looking forward to is showing that I'm good. I'm good enough to beat these top contenders in the like in this Utah amateur region. In this scene. So that's the biggest thing. But also just looking to showcase some more of my skills and get in there, get a win.
Well, we absolutely can't wait for it. Jackson Degrey making the walk. It's been a little bit too long. Appreciate the time, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.